Hello and welcome to another episode of Try Talk. Today with me as ever is my wonderful co-host Aneta Soldati and my second favorite co-host, or my first favorite co-host, my two favorite co-hosts, Scott Anderson. Thank you guys so much for joining.
This is going to be hectic. This is going to be
terribly hectic. We're going to give you guys a rundown of what happened during Xterra Czech. There's so much racing to dive into. We had a duathlon on Thursday, which Jens Emil and Sebastian Caraban took part in. We had the long course for both the men and women on Saturday, and then the short track on Sunday. Aneta was, as always, at the head of the racing. Scott, as always, was representing Try Talk in the men's field and the Oberwapplers and all of our friends. But I think we'll kind of just give a more of an introduction of what happened, how we kind of eased into the week. And maybe we can talk about the course. Maybe let's start. I'll try to delegate this a little bit more because there's three of us on the podcast this time. Scott, what were your impressions about the bike course or the course in general?
So, maybe for explanation, Xterra Czech used to be at a lake that is called Kristanovic. I've probably butchered that. But almost, yeah.
We gave it to the only non-Czech speaker.
Anyways, it used to be at that lake, but they drained it like 3 years ago or something. So for a couple of years, we moved to a different tiny lake. And this was the first year we were back at the original venue. And that also meant that at least the first part of the bike course has changed. And if you've ever been in Xterra Czech, you remember that at the old lake, the first part of the bike course was this terrible long uphill on a tarmac road. So we didn't have that anymore, which is really nice. But the first part of the course was really, I would say it was not very difficult. It was a lot of like gravel roads, some climbing, and it would really favor like group dynamics, people drafting. And then as soon as you got to the tower in Libin, it was kind of the same course as the years before. I think they flattened a few of the technical single trails, so they were now big forest motorways essentially. And overall, I would say there was not really anything technical except the Libin downhill, which is rocky and kind of, uncontrollable, you could say, because every time you go there, you just pick a different line because the stones are in different places, and it's just hectic, bro. And then maybe you have the climb up through the riverbed. That's also a bit technical, but other than that, it was pretty easy, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely easier physically than it was in the previous years. But I guess maybe that goes hand in hand that it was also the ETU championship, which tends to be easier. I don't know if that was the intention or it just happened, but yeah, I think we can all agree it was easier than the years before. But that doesn't mean it was easy. I think the course, especially on Saturday when it was like 32 degrees, it was still brutal.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe one, because this is, I think, really important for how the race played out. I'm sorry about running away. Did you talk about what the first, let's say, 10 minutes of the bike course looked like?
Well, yeah, Scott said it was easier. I don't know. I think maybe the fact that I didn't feel so great in a swim played a role, but I didn't find it easy. I thought it was quite hard. Like the first 2Ks, yes, that's just a gravel road and it was flat, but then there was a little technical downhill where Bart crashed, and then it started to go slowly up. So I didn't find it so easy.
Yeah, well, maybe to clarify on that, that climb that you mean was physically very hard because it was steep,
Yeah.
but it was not technically difficult. So that's what
No,
I mean. I mean, the
no,
courses,
of
of course, it was physically hard. There was still a lot of climbing, and it was fast. But from a technical perspective, it was much easier than it was the last years, I think.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Maybe to come back on this little like downhill, you said there was one. It was a few hundred meters only. It was a very, very steep downhill bit, which got kind of loose over the week with some rocks and roots. Our friend Bart decided to take. I think it was like a beeline or something maybe. But he rode his bike into a tree and like ripped his ear off halfway. So
I think that's what's tricky about this downhill. You need to choose a good line. Like if you do, it's okay. But if you at the beginning, like you don't really see or you don't know the downhill and you choose to go very left, then you might be in trouble.
I took all the left lines.
You did?
I
I wouldn't
think the
ride.
left line was
I
the
thought ride
easiest.
was easy.
Yeah.
Well, you see.
Because I saw Jens going all the way to the right, which seemed like the
Yeah,
best
so did
best
I.
line possible. Yeah, but it was. I think it's important to mention that. Okay, I'm the only guy here who's not a professional athlete, but when I was doing the course pre-ride, the first 10 to 15 minutes, because of this relatively difficult technical downhill, and then a relatively steep uphill, which was I think slow. I think that's kind of the main thing is that it's under 10 kilometers an hour, you're going up it, or maybe under 15. I think that's kind of really decisive for group formation. And then there's like a huge section, at least in my mind, which is really, really draft heavy, which
Yeah.
I think influenced heavily the way the race was raced, and the way actually the race, in my opinion, crowned a winner. But I think we'll talk about that maybe when we get to the men's race. For now, I think we should maybe mention the duathlon first. If you guys think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most exciting part of the duathlon was Jens going wrong. He was leading with a big gap, and then he was navigated wrong and did like extra 300 meters. So it got tiny bit exciting in the finish line, but he still took the win. So yeah, nothing surprising there.
He well, I would say he surprised me a little bit that he went hard right at the beginning of the first run, and he already pulled out a gap on everybody. Which I thought he would kind of have a slower race, try to save as much, and just kind of make the difference in the final run. But he just kind of led from the gun.
But yeah, he said he felt good, so he just went for it.
Yeah,
Well,
but
well
yeah, he
deserved
ended.
win, European title.
Yeah, for
I think
sure.
that's what he
And
went for.
I agree, and he looked really convincing, and so did a young Italian, Noemi Bogato. I hope I'm saying that name right. She won the women's, and she was actually really surprisingly strong.
She was impressive, yeah.
She'll feature in the women's race as well. But I think we can probably let's move on actually to the women's race. Let's start with the women's race, if that's okay.
Yeah, and I will actually continue with what you said about the bar course, because I think that's where I strategically lost it. So I didn't have the greatest swim. Isla Headley, young athlete from Great Britain.
One
She's a
second.
very
One
yeah.
second. We should mention the rule change, because the rule change I think is important for the women's race.
You mean that we could draft men but yes, so there was a change of rules. We could draft men, but at the same time, the start was postponed. So normally we start 1-2 minutes behind the men, but this time it was 5. So actually, for this race, it meant nothing. So Isla led the swim. I maybe chose a wrong position on the start line. I was far right, she was far left, and I think it was tiny bit shorter on the left. And when I catch up with her, there started to be a little gap, and I never managed to close it. And she led with 40 seconds. I got tiny bit surprised by that, I guess, and I panicked a little bit and wanted to like catch her as soon as possible, and went on this section that was quite hard, way too hard.
Mhm.
And instead of maybe going with Barbara, who was racing bit surprisingly, and did quite well on a bike. I think I gave her in the end only 2 minutes, and I could have probably stayed with her and worked with her in that drafting section. I decided to go after Isla and like spend the entire bike course basically alone. I haven't seen any man. I think I caught one man only at the end of the bike, but besides that, I was all alone. Probably not the smartest move, especially in that heat. I should have probably preserved some energy for later on. So not very good.
I think it's also really important to mention who was missing. We saw Alize Patier, who skipped the race because of a stress fracture in, I think, her pelvis. I'm not sure.
Yes, that's correct.
So we send Alize our best wishes, and we hope that she gets well soon. Because yeah, of course we're recording this after Germany has happened. We'll do the Germany podcast some other time, I think, because this is just going to be too much to talk about. But yeah, I hope she can get back in time for Molveno, because she's had.
I just saw a post on Instagram, and she said that she is very close to recovery. So it seems like she will be back in Molveno.
Perfect. That's awesome to hear. But yeah, back to your story. So you basically led out of the swim behind Isla, and then you caught her relatively quickly. Isla ended up kind of not having the best bike split, I think.
She had a flat tire, actually.
Really? Oh, never mind. In that case, my analysis is wrong. But Isla came in, I think, 5th or something to T2, but you came into T2 with about a 3-minute lead or something like that?
I think it was 2, I think.
Okay, and tell us what happened.
Yeah, I feel like I said the story 100 times, but so one more time. I came into T2, and I remember that my spot is near the toy that was there, which was easy to navigate.
The toy is a porter shitter, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know what a toy is.
It's not an international name for a portable. No,
I don't think so.
I think it's just a Czech thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so there was a blue toilet.
Porta shitter, as Scott eloquently put it.
Portaloo, yeah, that's what you call them.
Yeah, so I found the blue toy, and normally I don't really look at the numbers, I just look at my shoes. And I couldn't identify them. So I started to look at the numbers, and I found my spot, which was number 75. I wrecked my bike, and the shoes that were there were not mine. So I started to think, okay, maybe the person moved my shoes to the other side or something. So I started to look left, right. My shoes were not there. So I decided to really panic, and there was a referee behind me. So I was like, my shoes are not here. What's going on? Who stole my shoes? He also kind of panicked. He wasn't helpful at all. He was just no one stole your shoes. The T2 was closed. Calm down. No one stole your shoes. I was like, well, they are not here. My number is 75. The shoes under it, they say it's number 84. So where are my shoes? So I was running left, right. My shoes were not there. Eventually, it finally crossed my mind that maybe I should look at the number 84 that the shoes had, which was 10 spots further, and there were my shoes. So I spent 1.5 minutes looking for the shoes, and I can now say that later, after the race, when I finished, I went to the referees and I asked for an explanation. I was like, why my shoes were not on my spot? And at first they were like, no one touch your shoes. We are not allowed to touch your shoes. The referees can't touch your stuff. You put it wrong. I was like, no, that's not possible. Don't tell me that number 85 and number 74, we both put our shoes in a wrong spot, and by coincidence on each other's spot. That's very unlikely, right? And then I remembered that when I was leaving the transition during the check-in, I saw referees changing the spots of the juniors. And I remember very explicitly them saying, make sure you put the shoes the same way they had it. So if they had the bib under the shoes, put the bib under the shoes. And I was like, no way that someone actually did that to the whole transition and forgot to move my shoes.
They didn't do it to the whole transition, because I was there in the morning and I actually saw it happen. They only did it to the women's field because, and maybe this is another detail to add now, majority of the race and or the organization about it was dominated by the ETU because they were in charge of doing the ETU champs. So
and the referees were from ETU.
Exactly. And I remember vividly putting my stuff in T2 in the morning and some referee going around with cable cutters and cutting all of the numbers on the other side of the rack, which was the woman's side, off, and just putting them at different places because they apparently put the numbers the wrong way around. So they were supposed to go top to bottom, and then they were bottom to top. So they must have just changed the numbers, but not the shoes.
Well, what I've been explained after, so finally the referee who was responsible came and said, like, yeah, we are sorry, we put it wrong. They apparently had a different idea of how the transition should be organized, but then when they changed it, they put the numbers one after each other instead of putting them, the opposite way. So then they changed it again, but somehow they forgot my shoes and shoes of number 84. Which was a girl that did not finish, so it hasn't affected her race. From what I know, what I've heard, it was only me that got affected by it.
Well, they changed everybody else's shoes, but not yours.
Yeah, seems like
Oh,
it,
right, okay, I didn't realize that.
That's completely fucked. Excuse my pardon my French.
Actually, until this point, I thought they literally just put the numbers on the racks in different positions and just left the shoes where they were.
No, it seems like they changed the shoes, but then they changed the bit numbers as well, and just
I mean, it was very confusing because they had a very big elite field, but not everyone in the elite field was in the ETU champs. And in transition,
and they wanted to separate it.
Yeah, and in transition, only the people with the ETU champs had a box, and everyone, like the other elites, they did not race ETU champs. So I don't know, if you were from the States or Australia or whatever, you did not have a box. So this was super weird. And then they also had a really weird start procedure where normally in a World Cup race, they'll have a lineup where they call out like the top 10 and then everybody else can go and get their position. But here they just called out like 30 people for the ETU champs in, I don't know which order they put them, I guess world ranking maybe or something. I've literally no idea. And then everyone else in the World Cup who was not in the ETU champs they were kind of the last people to go in, which was, I don't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, to sum it up, not only us athletes, but also the organizers of Xterra were very frustrated. I got answers only when I started to tell them that I'm gonna put a protest in, which they eventually discouraged me from. They said, like, yeah, you can put protest, but you're gonna lose €50 because we're not gonna change anything. Obviously, I went to the live timing. I got some splits. I lost a minute in the transition.
At least.
Yeah.
You spent like 2 minutes. You spent 2 minutes in transition, and the transition probably, in my opinion, should have taken you around 30 or 40 seconds. So I think the estimate should be between 90 to 60 seconds is what you were stolen from.
Basically. Yeah, but I mean, it's hard to put number on it because it's not just the time that you spend in a transition, it's also the stress, the frustration. Instead of focusing on your race, you all of a sudden you're just thinking, what the fuck just happened? You try to tell that to your family who is wondering why you are so slow in a transition. So it affects your race. At the same time, like, yes, as they said, like, if I put a protest, what do? They take out the minute and nothing has changed anyway. So I decided not to put protest. They said sorry, end of the story. I wrote an email to the technical delegate of ETU that was responsible for the race, and I never received an answer. So that's how seriously they took it.
Jeez, that's awful. Yeah, I think it sadly had an impact on the race, which I'll kind of return to quickly. So you got passed relatively quickly because of this time loss as well by Barbara Riveros, who this wasn't her first Xterra that she's raced, but first one this season for sure. She raced one, I think, a couple years ago. She's somebody who has gone to the Olympics Games, who has raced Ironman. I was looking at her thinking, she'll be no issue, no competitions for Aneta. That was not the case. She was incredibly strong, unbelievable run. I mean,
Expected it. I mean, she was fifth at the Olympics, and this course was not technical.
But it was hard. And I think this was such an interesting mix of having really class and having good fatigue resistance from doing Ironman racing,
yeah.
that if you saw her on the run, the way she looked on the run, she was so relaxed. She looked like, on the last lap, she was just running like as if it was nothing. It was really incredible.
Maybe she did some heat training, unlike me.
Maybe it's possible.
I think there was a lot of people that were really affected by the heat because I think normally Romy or Emma would have run better, or I would run better, but we all just died because the heat was just horrible.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what ended up getting affected was the European champs, because you ended up getting passed by Marta Mendito. Marta had an incredibly strong race. She was really consistent, had a really good run, but she passed you.
She is so good at pacing. That's one of her strengths. She can really pace herself well, and I think this race was all about it. Those who managed to pace themselves well in the heat did really well.
Yeah.
So hats off to Marta, and hats off to Carrie Ann, because I think she did really well as well. She finished the European champs and fourth in the overall ranking of Xterra Vodka.
Exactly. So
of the race, I mean.
So Barbara first, Marta second. You got third, therefore second in the European champs. Third place in the European champs and fourth place overall was Carrie Ann Upham, who this is definitely like by far her biggest result to date. This was a really strong field on a really hard race. Fifth place was the young Italian I mentioned from the duathlon, which is just insane. I mean, to be so young, to have such fatigue resistance during a 3-hour race, it's really crazy. Sixth place, Romy Spudler. Seventh, Karina Vassal. Eighth, Bianca Morvillo. Ninth, Isla Headley, who, as you mentioned, had a flat tire, but also seemed to me like she didn't have the best of runs. And then actually 10th was an Austrian age grouper, Jack. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Jauklini. And in the elites,
is that possibly Jacqueline?
No way, right?
Hold on, I have to check the results.
You have to open the results and correct me on this. And then 11th, getting actually the points for top 10 was Emma de Croo. But and I'll mention Hannah, who we were staying with, in 12th place. Which I think this was a really, really hard race where I think a lot of people ended up being, I think, unhappy with the results, because it just seemed strange the way it was raced. It just seemed like, I really can't put my finger on it.
I would say it was unusual. And I think that it was caused by the heat. I think a lot of, it was very cold in Europe, July, most of the July, it was really cold. In the Czech Republic, it started to be hot on Wednesday before the race. So unless you really prepare for heat and did some heat training, or you were in some hot place, I think this was something that we were not ready for. And I definitely really suffered on that run.
But I think...
sorry to interrupt this. Her first name is Lini, and the last name is Jauk. The way I thought,
it's okay. Jauklini.
No, Lini Jauk.
Lini Jauk.
That's her name.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's impressive that she managed to finish 10th as an age grouper, but at the same time, the age groupers, they were starting 40 minutes behind us all together, I suppose. So
don't ask me. I was sprinting around the course trying to give you guys time splits, so I have absolutely no idea what happened.
I don't know how much drafting she could have done.
It's just a different race. You can't compare.
Yeah,
the race dynamics are completely different. Yeah.
But still cool.
It's pretty strong, yeah. Not to take anything away from that.
But I think let's move on to the men's race, if that's okay.
I have nothing to say about it.
Me neither.
So moving on to the men's race, I think, Scott, could you tell us what your day was like? Because
my day was crap, really. I mean, before the race, kind of, I expected like the swim to be really hectic because usually, like if you have federation championships, you get a lot of people who come from the road and they usually swim good. And then considering like the first part of the bike, I was expecting to have a lot of good swimmers like blocking up the trails, I guess. Which I guess was kind of true. The swim was relatively hectic. And then I just had a really shit day on the bike. No power, got some GI issues eventually on the way, and then I pulled out about 200 meters after transition two. And the only reason I actually went onto the run course is because I didn't want to pull out in transition two already with everyone looking. Yeah, so that was not a great day. And shortly after pulling out, I went. I don't know if you're listening, you know the race at Czech, but like this is in the middle of the town square, and in the main like city hall, there's all of the Xterra offices, and there's also the anti-doping control. And in that building, I went there. I found some tables, and under those tables were packaging of like big marquees and tents, and then I just like fell asleep under the table for like 45 minutes or something.
No way.
Yeah, and then I went home, had a shower, and then I had another 2 hour nap. So my day was not brilliant.
Jeez.
I have to say I have a little suspicion that there was a bit of a virus going in our household, because just before everyone arrived, my sister was a little bit sick. I thought I have a really heavy allergy, but retrospectively, I think I was maybe also a little bit sick. Hannah got sick just before the race, so I'm afraid that everyone who was staying with us uh, got maybe a little bit affected by that.
I mean, I don't know. I heard a few other people saying that they had GI issues as well. I'm not sure if it maybe had something to do with the lake. I mean, the water was pretty murky. Like you could literally not see your hand if you had your arm extended while swimming. So I don't know.
Probably
I mean,
heat as
Either
well.
way, yeah, maybe it was something of all of that. But what I can say, and this kind of chips into how the course was really good for group formation. Like a few of the, I'd say, slower swimmers, but like good bikers came up behind me as I was like in these first 10, 15 Ks of the bike. And yeah, I saw a lot of big groups kind of just passing loads of people. I think it was Baptiste Fordoxel is like a very strong Frenchman. I think we've talked about him on the pod before. He came by with a big group. I kind of stuck with them, and then we were just catching people because in a group you just go so much faster. So I guess this is kind of a
So
just
group
case in
dy-
point in how this was a good course for drafting.
so group dynamics incredibly important. So what happened in the men's race was, and I want to get his name right because he is my French goat, Émile Bilot. I hope I pronounced that right. Young French guy. He's even younger than me. He's 21 years old, but he's like 20 centimeters taller.
How old are you, Ollie?
23.
Spill the tea.
23. He led the swim. Actually, he's somebody who has raced Xterra before, performed really well. I had him circled as a potential future talent, and he races on the road. So obviously a really good swimmer, but also really strong in all other disciplines. So I'm really happy he delivered here. Sorry about that rant. He led the first. He led out of the swim with, I think it was about a 40 or a minute gap on the group of favorites. Then what happened in the group of favorites is really important. Lukáš Kočár, he talked about this in his podcast. His strategy. So he obviously came up with most of the favorites and the guys who can't swim as well, like Jens and Arthur Forazier, and I think Sebastian Neff and Ben Forbes, who are really strong out of the bike. They were about another minute and a half behind. Anyway, the group of favorites, Kočár's strategy was to try to make a gap, because Kočár's characteristic as a racer is huge power, huge power on long sustained efforts. Maybe race IQ, I think, is not the best, but I don't want to criticize too much. But his strategy going into it, I think, was right. He wanted to make a gap on everybody in transition one. Therefore, he rushed transition, made a mistake in transition by not putting his wetsuit all the way into the bag that he was given. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then he went really, really hard on this first technical part, basically trying to shred this group apart. He said in the first 15 minutes, he attacked maybe 3 times or something and always managed to get about a 20-meter gap. By the timing where I was sitting, which was about 15 meters into the bike course, or 15 minutes into the bike course, he had about a 5-second gap on Arthur Serier and Felix Foresier, who were not sitting behind him. They were trying to close the gap to him. In my opinion, this is great tactics. If Kochas gets a gap and he's alone and he can just power, he's so strong. The issue is, once he passed that point where I was sitting, which was essentially the finish of the hard area, he would always get caught either on the technical sections or on the flat parts where the 2 French guys could work together. He also said in his podcast that he tried to get the guys to work with him. Therefore, I don't want to criticize him too much. But essentially what ended up happening is, because he just sat on the front and rode, he pulled these 2 French guys all the way almost to the finish of the bike, but pretty much the entire draft-heavy course. The group behind him, with Jens Emil and Arthur Serier, who are pretty much Arthur Foresier, who are pretty much the only 2 guys who were able to bridge to this group of 3. They were slowly closing this gap, but it was always Lukáš on the front. So these 2 guys catch him. There's about a 20 or 25 minute descent into town, which is on single trail flowy sections. This is right before it is where Jens and Arthur made contact with the front 3 guys. And actually Jens started putting on the gas really hard, trying to drop these guys going into transition 2. This is actually, by the way, a tactic that he used in Zittau as well. So I think it's interesting to watch this, how this happened in one race and in the other as well. But Kochas here, for some reason, decided not to try to follow Jens. Also, at this point, he's not as good technically as these guys.
He said that it kind of mentally broke him that he was caught by Arthur and Jens, because he thought that he will have a medal, and all of a sudden they were 5, and he realized he is not the strongest runner and he's getting a bit tired. So he said it kind of broke him.
And what probably didn't help as well was that he got gapped by over a minute going just on this downhill. And pretty much that was his 5th place or 4th place sewn up. He ran faster than Arthur Foresier, who I think, in my opinion, did way too big of an effort trying to bridge with Jens. I think it just wasn't good for him. But what happens is you have a running race between 2 guys, between Felix and between Jens. Felix is clearly, and again, we've seen this in Greece this year, he is clearly stronger on the uphills. Whereas Jens is, again, clearly stronger on downhill sections and flat parts.
But remember, he did a duathlon race just 2 days before.
Exactly. So the accumulated fatigue is definitely there and probably quite present. But it was a really interesting battle where they went back and forth. They traded who was leading. In the process, they were dropping Arthur Serier behind. But at some point in the technical uphills, Felix is able to just drop Jens, and he runs in with about a 30-second gap, winning the race. He was so strong and so smart today. He didn't do too much work that he didn't want to do, and he was just the strongest runner. And yeah, I think that's kind of what I have to say about the tactics. I think not great. Again, a repetition of what we've seen from Kochas. Although his tactics going into it were right, then at some point you have to switch. I wasn't able to make my plan work. I need to try something else. And I think he's not happy racing for a medal. He shouldn't be happy just pulling that group. He came there to win, and in my opinion, he's not maximizing his win probability. And Jens,
I mean, I guess
think,
you have to kind of give him probably that he's in a difficult spot because he's a really strong biker, but he's well, the Frenchmen are strong enough to ride with him, so there's no point in him trying to pull it off on the bike. But he also knows that the Frenchmen run faster than him, so it's kind of difficult situation to try and do anything.
Yep. But I'll give just a quick rundown of the top 10. So Felix wins, Jens Emil second, Artur Seria in third. Kocsis ends up getting disqualified. I think we'll talk about this once I run down the top 10. Sebastian Caraban, therefore, in fourth. He pips Artur Foresier to the line. Artur, I think, wasn't particularly happy about it. It was a really close sprint finish. Artur in fifth, Sebastian Neff in sixth, Ben Vivet, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, in seventh, Emile Bilot, really strong, eighth place, Lucas Mess in ninth, and Morgan Rhodes, really surprising, really huge shout out to Morgan in 10th. That's crazy performance by him. But let's talk about Lukáš Kocsis. What happened, Aneta?
So basically, he didn't put his wetsuit in the bag that we received. He said in his podcast that he didn't really hear that instruction clearly in the briefing. The briefing was held at the square, not inside. It was outside in like 30 plus heat.
Another great decision by the ETU.
Yeah, not an ideal place for a briefing. So he said that like he didn't really hear that instruction that it has to be all completely inside. I do remember them saying it at the briefing. And then he was saying that his place in the transition, it was all the way down where it was really muddy from the rain that we had days before. Not sure how does that affect your ability to put your wetsuit in the bag, but he said it did. And then basically he didn't see his number on the penalty box. We were passing the penalty box twice, and I was thinking myself that it was very visible and impossible to actually not see. I even remember there was number 80 and got a penalty for violation. So, I mean, it's your obligation to have a look and stop. He didn't do it. He was informed about it in the finish line, and then he decided to run back, stop in the transition, and try to finish again. And he was hoping that he will avoid being disqualified by doing that. But once you finish, the race is finished. So they didn't accept this strategy. He tried to appeal it, but it was not successful.
It's important to mention that he finished by about 3 minutes or something on fourth place or fifth place. So he would have totally gotten fourth, and the prize money that correlates with that.
One of the loops, when he was passing the penalty box, there was someone crossing the road, so he was focusing on that instead of the penalty box. I mean, fair enough, but then you have one more chance to see it, right? He was also saying like no one informed him. We had the privilege of having a national coach there, but the coach area was actually on completely different part of the course. It was by the aid station, which is like 2 kilometers at least from the penalty box. So there was no way that the coach could have been at both places, especially since both me and Lucas, we asked him to give us some gels and ice and stuff. So but unfortunately, no one informed him. The referees cannot inform him. It's your responsibility. And he didn't stop. I I mean,
Sucks.
there were athletes that didn't stop in a penalty box and did successfully appeal their disqualification, but this time it did not happen.
Sucks for race, in my opinion. I think he deserved that fourth place, but also he messed up, and should have gotten a penalty.
He said, yeah, it was my fault. Like, there is nothing I can do about it.
Short track time.
I have to give a shout out to Oliver because for once he was right. He predicted I'm gonna win the short track, which I told him it's not gonna happen. Before the race, I told him there is no way I'm gonna win a short track in the Czech Republic because I don't think the short track suits me. But for once he was right.
So what happened?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have watched that footage so many times. My daughter keeps asking me to play it, so we actually watched it again today. I have no idea what happened.
I still haven't watched it. Oh shit.
That's crazy. So you let out of a swim.
Yes. So in comparison to Saturday's race, I actually had a good swim, and I went out of the water with Ayla and one of the Italian girls. I think the young Italian girl.
Different young Italian girl, not Noemi.
Junior. And then I decided to be a Marta and pace myself. So I didn't kill myself on the first 2 laps. Instead, I was riding conservatively.
What happened on the first lap?
Well, we had to make some drama again, right? So when we went to the second loop, we were supposed to go through the transition. And the way we were arriving, there was a little uphill. You were arriving to the penalty box, and you had to take quite sharp right to go through the transition area. And it was not visible because we were in a forest, and like the transition was just straight there. And no, I don't recall anyone indicating. There were a lot of people, there were a lot of referees, there were a lot of Xterra people, and I don't recall anyone pointing the direction to the transition area. Instead, we passed them and went around. And then I just saw the referee like waving at us that we have to go back. So yes, we turned. I used some abusive language.
You lost like 25 seconds.
Yeah, according to the footage, it was around 25 seconds. Somehow, I didn't let that distract me too much. I was like, okay, it happened. Let's continue.
I was also yelling at you to not let it disturb you.
A couple of people said that, and I tried to do that. I was hoping to create a bigger gap on a bike, but that didn't happen. I had 13 seconds out of T2 on Marte. And at that point, I accepted I'm second. I was like, yeah, okay. Like, second is good. Like, that's nice. But then we went to the second loop, and she still haven't caught me. And I wasn't dying. So I was like, maybe this could work out. But then she did call me like 500 meters before the finish line, where there was the last steep uphill. And my sister was standing there and she was shouting at me very violently that I have to push hard and I have to try keep up with her and I cannot give up. So I tried to do that. And I realized going uphill that I'm actually faster than Marta. So I overtook her and I created a little gap. And then I decided very strategically, I'm going to slow down and try to preserve some energy and try to attack on that last tiny uphill before the finish line. What I didn't realize is that we have still around 300-400 meters to go and I have to keep up with her until then. So I thought that she will drop me going downhill. Somehow she didn't. Then I was pretty sure she's gonna drop me through the transition area because I was just dead. She didn't. And then we approached that hill and I was waiting to see whether I can, which way I can go, whether she will let me a space on the left, or if she will, if I will have to go right. And she made a mistake and she let there a space, so I just pushed and managed to overtake her and take the shorter inner turn, and I won. It was unbelievable, and it was crazy experience to win in front of a home crowd. I don't think I will ever experience something like that again. It was very emotional.
It was really emotional for me as well. I started crying across the field.
Yeah, it was really special.
It was a really awesome race.
I came to a conclusion that I am actually happy that it happened on Sunday, because it was live on the national TV, so a lot of people saw it, and it probably had a bigger impact than if I won on Saturday. Basically, obviously, I would have loved to win on Saturday as well, but if I could choose, I would choose Sunday again, because it was something special. Men's race.
No, 1 second. 1 second. Don't let me. I completely wrote off Marta because she came out of the swim about a minute behind you. You rode the first lap with Isla, I think, smartly, kind of pacing yourself. Marta did a huge effort on the first lap. She closed so much time, obviously also aided by the time that you lost in transition because of being sent the wrong way with Isla. Isla then started losing a lot of time on the third and fourth lap. I think this is, but also, she's a young athlete. I think this course kind of suits her more to be more explosive, less fatigue. Marta on the second lap, I think, interestingly, had to sit up a little bit, and she sat on Romy Spudler's wheel for, I think, about half a lap or a lap, which I think meant that then she didn't close that much time on that second lap. And then on the third and fourth lap, she really started closing it. I remember on the fourth lap, you were asking me to the gap to Marta, who was just closing you, faster and faster.
Yeah, but you also said one thing, that she is putting a lot of energy into closing the gap. And I had that in my mind. I was like, okay, maybe she'll be tired.
But Marta was so awesome. I really want to give her such a shout out, because she kind of came from far back in the field, rode a really, really strong race, had, put a lot of energy into it. And in my opinion, if you were not sent the wrong way and had a 25-second leap, it would have been boring. Like you would have, it would have been nice for you to win. I would have loved it. But this was such an unbelievable finish. And
finally, women had finished like
right?
that.
Exactly.
Because there was so many short tracks where men had a sprint finish, but there was never ever a sprint finish for women. So we finally had to do it. So thanks, Marta. That was great.
Huge shout out, Marta. If she was any worse, I was thinking about saying some stupid inspirational quote like, "A true enemy can help you find yourself," or something. But it's not about being enemies. Marta was so awesome when you won. It was really awesome to see. So huge shout out to her.
Michal, the organizer of Xterra Czech, he came to me after the race, and he was like, "Thanks God you won, otherwise you would have killed me today for sending us the wrong way." I mean, it was partly our fault. We should have known that we were supposed to go through the transition at the same time. When there are 3 or 4 people standing, I would have expected one of them will point out the direction. Well, luckily, happy ending.
Top 10. Aneta Grabmüller wins the short track. Let's go. Marta Mendito just about half a second behind her in second. Isla Headley hangs on to the fucking podium. Isla Headley is a hell of a talent. She's incredible. Romy Spudler in fourth place. Really strong race from her. Mia Lantelme. I hope I probably fucked that name up. I'm so sorry. Fifth place. Really strong from the young French girl. Emma de Croo, sixth place. Great performance. Carrie Ann Upham, again, really strong in seventh. Camille Jobart, again, probably fucked that name up, I'm sorry. In 8th, Hannah Lee Young from the household. The household had a hell of a day on this day. In 9th, and one of my great friends, Stepanka Bisová, in 10th. Huge shout out to Stepanka for getting a top 10 in the elite women's. Awesome race. Awesome race. And I think we could move on to the men's.
And I can actually say something about it because I watched it.
So, again, we had the two guys leading the pack. Emile Bilot, but this time the Shark was back. I predicted the Shark for the long race because I thought he was going to be so smart. I told him, Michele, you have to ride like an asshole. You're going to sit on the two French guys and on Kochas. Kochas is going to pull the entire way, and you're going to fucking kill him on the run. You're going to do absolutely nothing, and they're going to ride because they're going to be scared of Jens, and you can actually win this race. He had a bad race on Saturday, but then on Sunday, he was like, Oliver, I'm here. He rode he was so fast. He paced the first lap of the bike really strong. Behind him, Felix Ferrezier was ahead of a big pack. And now I'll throw it over to Scott because Scott was part of this pack, which was headed by Lukáš Kočár. That was why the pack was so big, because Lukáš, huge engine, but again, bad on the technical stuff. He was holding up a lot of these guys. So, Scotty, how was
I was
your
about
race?
to say, he was leading the pack until, I think, some second lap technical uphill or something, where he basically stopped and everyone kind of had to go around. Yeah, there was, again, pretty hectic on like the first lap of the short track because everyone was trying to get ahead. And I feel like this is a common theme in short tracks. Like everyone's trying to go balls to the wall on the first lap. And there were a few dick moves on the bike. A few dick moves were made. But then it kind of got like spread out. And obviously I didn't quite get what happened right at the front, but I did see that Lukáš Kočár fell back, or maybe the front rode away from him, because I saw him in front of me a bit on the bike. And then obviously you have Jens and Ben who came from the back and kind of rode around the course. Maybe a few words to the course actually, because we haven't said anything about that.
Yeah, what did it look like?
This place is like the OG short track. It's where the first short track race ever was held in 2019 or something.
This is sorry, Scott. This is where I discovered Xterra racing. This is how I got connected. I saw the live stream of this race, and I saw Jens racing it. I was like, haha, this guy's name is Sloth and he's fast. I'm gonna give him a follow on Instagram. And yeah, the rest is history.
And then you just randomly started messaging people and
basically
being a weird, creepy guy in people's DMs.
Yes, exactly.
But just to add, you see how big impact the fact that this is televisionized. Is that the word? Televised on national TV. Like it's massive, you know. Like so many people saw that. It's Sunday, it's midday, and people just watch TV, and there is this triathlon race in the Czech Republic. It's just amazing for the sport. And
dude, there are so many people actually at the race.
Yeah.
Like I think the short track in Czech is literally the short track with the most people.
And this year, I think they switched the time. Like we used to race in the morning, and then the youth race was afterwards. But this year, they made a really good choice to put the youth race first, and then the short track, which meant that all the youth athletes stayed there and cheered for us, and the atmosphere was just incredible. And I wish like every short track was like that, because it's just amazing to race with so much people shouting at you.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, the most funny thing was the short track. So this whole venue at the lake is kind of at a campsite, and it's like a back to nature campsite. They don't have running water. The toilets literally are a house built around a big hole in the ground. And this toilet house is in the middle of the course. Like if you rode past, you could literally have like the stench of ammonia coming from there. But that's kind of besides the point. this whole bike course was literally going. There's one guy was going through his
I
tent,
wanted to
and there was
say,
another guy who was cooking goulash on a fire next to the track on race day. So you
there
kind of
was
running
so
through like
much
smoke,
smoke.
and
In the first lap, there was so much smoke.
it is so awesome.
And
And
the commentary on the national TV when we were running to the last lap, they said, "Oh, seems like the goulash is now finished."
it was good. Yeah. I mean, the whole this venue had a short track since 2019, and apparently every year the Xterra Czech crew kind of added more features to it, and you can really see that in the course. Like it's built in a very exciting way, so you can always run from one spot to the other. It's very easy to climb the sections of the course by foot, so there's always people just lining the sides of the course. And the obstacles are built really well integrated into the nature, but they are still exciting and in kind of I would almost say like old school mountain bikey way. And it's awesome to ride. It's awesome to watch. It's a lot of fun. And I mean, yeah, that kind of sums it up, I think.
But
And
it's really hard, of course, no? That's
yeah,
also
Oh, yeah, of
really
course, it's hard.
important.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it is
fucking
hard.
brutal.
But it's fun, and I think back to the men's race, someone who really enjoyed the bike course was Jens Emil, who managed to get in the lead, but then lost it on the run.
Well, he passed the big group with Kochas in it, or that was headed by Kochas, and then he caught up to Felix, and Artur Syria was just out of the picture at this point. He
was trailing on a bike, like
he was like 20 seconds behind or something. He
you know
just
when
looked
when you
terrible.
when you saw how Jens or Felix are riding some of those technical sections, and then you saw Arthur, you would like
Yeah.
this guy can't really ride. Like
Yeah.
it was crazy to see, like, in comparison. I mean, probably people were thinking the same looking at me riding these sections, but but it was like I would not expect him coming back.
And Felix actually crashed on the bike. I don't know if you guys know this, but he ended up crashing.
Yeah.
And then Jens was actually able to lead into T2, where Jens just, this is one of his weaknesses. He doesn't have strong T2s. So he lost some time there. You can see this on the graphs that we have published on our Instagrams and on our Linktree interactive graphs. I spend a lot of time making them. Please look at them. So Jens was slow in T2, and he ends up running about 5 seconds ahead of Felix. And I'm like, this is a 2-horse race. These guys are going so hard. Then they start coming to the hill where I'm standing, and behind them is Artur Syria, and he is running as if he has done 0 racing up to this point. He looks unbelievable. He sprints up the hill, and he just drops these guys, runs in with a 20-second lead on Jens, over 35 seconds on Felix, who looked really strong. Jens has an hour and 4-minute half
I
marathon.
wanted to say that.
Serrier dropped him like he was me.
You know,
Serrier dropped him like he was running like I run.
I wished like Xterra running was like comparable. Like we could see the pace as you do in Ironman. If you see in running, like we could say, oh, he was running 3-minute pace. Like unfortunately we don't have that. We don't know. But imagine that this guy can run faster than Jens with 104 half marathon. Like, what?
I think if you speak about pace, it's not really representative of the course, because the short track course there is basically, if you're in the forest, it's either uphill, relatively steep, or downhill. There's a very few flat bits in there, and I think the specific uphill that you're talking about is super, super steep. So if you can just keep it together there for about 15 seconds and really run up that hill quickly, which takes a lot of strength. You don't necessarily have to be a fast runner as in pace wise, but you need a lot of strength to be able to kind of sprint up that hill. You can easily close 10, 15 seconds or something just on that hill alone. And then you got like 3 or 4 uphills on the whole course where you can kind of repeat that.
Yeah, I agree. Exactly what Scotty said. You have Jens, in my opinion, is the fastest runner on flat terrain. In my opinion, Serrier and Felix are both stronger on uphills, and that's why often we're able to beat him. Okay, again, there's
I
some
mean,
fatigue that
Jens
goes
is
into
from
it.
Denmark. They don't have hills.
They don't have many hills, do they?
No.
But just to run it down, Artur Serie, incredible win in first place.
Pun. What a play on words.
Was there a pun? Did I make
You
it a
said
pun?
just to run it down, Arthur Serie
Oh my
caught them up,
god!
and I was like,
That
what a
was. Oh, I thought I was. No, I'm not a genius. like that,
genius.
Artur Serie wins. Jens Emil behind him in second place. Felix third. Artur Frazier, as always, in fourth. Lukáš Kočas runs in the fifth place. I think kind of disappointed. Maybe not what he was looking for. I know he was kind of dejected going into the race. Maybe didn't even want to race it. Michele, sixth place. Awesome result for my boy. Let's go. Ben fucking Forbes in seventh place. One of the members of the household. Awesome day. Kieran McPherson in eighth. Scotty fucking Anderson in ninth. One of the members of the household. The household had a good fucking day. Excuse all this, words that I'm using.
Profanity.
All this profanity. Sebastian Neif in 10th, rounding out the top 10. Awesome result from our boy as well. This was such a good race. I loved seeing it. Not as good as the women's, but great result. And Artur was just so strong.
And I think we should wrap it up because we are now talking for more than an hour, and I have a 5:40 a.m. bike training.
Oh no. And my computer has like 5%. So we're going to wrap this up. We are going to do an episode on the race in Zitta, which was absolutely awesome, where we have a lot of stuff to talk about as well. We loved the race in Czech. It was really hard, really difficult. Some awesome wins, some awesome racing happened. Congratulations to Aneta. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you guys are interested at all in maybe some graphical work that I did, check out our Instagram. In general, check out on Instagram. Aneta's been posting some really funny memes. Scott, I'm sure, will get in on the posting as well. Check out Racing Scotsman on Instagram and check out Aneta Grabmuller. So, thank you guys so much for listening, and ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Take care.